إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ به تعالى من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله الله بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة ما يطيع الله ورسوله فقد رشد وما يعصي الله ورسوله فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أما بعد، معاشر المسلمين، أوصيكم ونفسي أولا بتقوى الله عز وجل. فإن الله تعالى يقول بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة. Now in this khutbah I have to address the young and the old. Today we have in our midst many of the elementary school children, seeing that it's a PA day at school. And so I want my message to be relevant to them as well. At the same time, we are addressing an internet audience, and I want to make sure that they derive some benefit from our sermon this afternoon. So I necessarily, because we have the children here, have to repeat some of the things that the older folks already know. But the children especially need to learn our religion. The older folks already know it. So I don't have to explain it to you. I have to explain it to them. So bear with me while I repeat some of the fundamental and basic teachings of our faith. At the same time, this weekend is Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving will be celebrated here in Canada on Monday. And so Monday is a public holiday as a result of this. And so we want to say something about that and tie it all in together. So let me begin right there. In the Quran, in the 31st chapter known as Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the story of Luqman, who is given in the Quran as a wise man. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ أَنْ يَشْكُرِ لِلَّهِ. We gave Luqman hikmah, wisdom. And the wisdom is this, that he should give thanks to Allah. That's one of the basic things of wisdom. A person who is sane and who has reasonable intelligence will always give thanks to people who have benefited him in some way. Let's say you open your front door one morning and you see that there is a stash of money on your front door with a note saying, "This is for you. Signed, your benefactor, no name." Now you want to know who gave me this money. I want to thank that person. So you want to give thanks to the person who has helped you out. And if you don't have that basic thanks to give thanks to somebody, you cannot say that you have hikmah, you cannot say that you have wisdom. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave hikmah to Luqman, and the hikmah is this, the wisdom is that he should give thanks to Allah. And whoever gives thanks, he gives thanks for himself. That is of benefit to himself. How does that come back as benefit to us? If a father gives his child a piece of chocolate and says, "Can I have a piece of that?" Now, of course, he doesn't want it, but he's testing the child. "Can you give me a piece of your chocolate?" He gave the chocolate in the first place. Now, if that child says, "Yes, Daddy, here, I'll break my chocolate in 2 halves and I'll give you 1 half," imagine the love that will generate between father and child. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing with us. He gives us His bounties, And then He's testing us. Are you willing to give some of that back to Allah Azza wa Jal? Are you willing to give thanks to Allah? And when we give thanks to Allah, then He increases the bounties that He has given us. So that's the beauty of it all. It's like the child gives his father half of his chocolate, and then next time, what do you think the father is going to do? Buy the child more chocolate. Of course, you shouldn't buy too much chocolate for your child, because that can lead to dental problems and other health issues. But you see the point, that that relationship is built between father and child, one of love, when that thanks is given and when the acknowledgement of the favors are expressed. So we need to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah assures us in the end, وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. If anyone is ungrateful to Allah, they should know that Allah is ghani, He is rich and self-sufficient, and He is Hamid, He is praiseworthy. So to Allah belongs all of the praise. He needs nothing and He needs no one, but we need things and we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, one of the prime teachings of Islam is that we should acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our only God. And the shirk, by extension, is reprehensible. That's one of the biggest sins in Islam, to commit shirk. If we do some other sin, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of His own good nature may choose to forgive us, because He is Ghafoor, He is Rahim. If we commit shirk, we are really placing ourselves away from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like you enter a country, and if we enter Canada, what do we see? Two signs. One says Canadian and US passports this way. The other sign says all other passports the other direction. I go to the UK. One sign says UK and European passports this way, all other passports the other way. So what's being done here? There is a differentiation between citizens and non-citizens. There is a differentiation between those who hold a particular passport and those who hold other passports. When we devote ourselves to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, we are holding a special passport with Allah Azza wa Jal. We haven't done anything yet except commit ourselves to Allah Azza wa Jal, and now we hold that passport. For somebody who is an immigrant to this country to become a naturalized citizen of this country, what does he or she do? They study, how do I get my citizenship? What are the questions that may be asked of me? They go to a citizenship examination, and then there is a swearing-in ceremony. In that swearing-in ceremony, they will pledge their allegiance to the laws of this country and to the governing bodies of this country. So now they become citizens, and they have a right to hold the Canadian passport. When we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, we are pledging our citizenship with Allah Azza wa Jal. We are saying, Ya Rab, I am yours. And so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places us then in a different category in His eyes. It doesn't mean that we will look down on other people. It means that we will give them da'wah, with hikmah, with wisdom, wal maw'izatil hasana, and with beautiful exhortation. And we will argue with them in the best way, because the Quran says, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. So we will give them the message, we will plead with them, we will reason with them, we will even at times argue in a gracious manner, proving our points with reason, with evidence, and with good logic. But at the same time, we don't look down on them. Maybe that other person is better than me in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal. Maybe that person, by virtue of the circumstances in which that person was born and lived, by virtue of the books they read, the people they met, the schooling they had, they are what they are. Maybe if those persons, those very persons, had been born under different circumstances, maybe they would have been better Muslims than we are. So we don't look down on the other person. We leave the final judgment to Allah Azza wa Jal. But in the meantime, we give them the message of Allah. So the first commandment for us is that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The 17th chapter of the Quran, called Bani Israel, says in the 23rd ayah, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ. And your Lord has enjoined upon you that you worship none but Allah. So I want all of the children here to understand that we cannot associate somebody else with Allah. Now let me ask you children, who is stronger, you or your father? Generally, your father, right? Who is stronger, you or your mother? Generally, your mother. So a child is not stronger than the parents. Maybe times will change and the parents will get old and become weak, and then you will grow in strength. You will become stronger. That's true. But at the moment, as you know, all kids here will acknowledge that the parents are stronger. In the case of Allah Azza wa Jal, He never grows old. We said last week that He is an eternal being. He's a timeless being. Time is a measure of change. When we change, the clock ticks. Some change has occurred. This was time 1, that is time 2. Call it T1 and T2 in mathematical terms. So time is a measure of change. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no time. He does not change for the worse. He does not become old and decrepit and sickly. So now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was ever, if we even said hypothetically, let's think about the possibility, if He ever was to have a child, then the child naturally will have to be weaker than the father. And that child cannot be God. So logically, to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a child, whether son or daughter, and that child is equal with God, that is a logical inconsistency. It doesn't make any sense. If you say they are equal, you shouldn't call one father and one son. Why don't you call them something like twin brothers? Because that's what equality means. But father and son, it means one is greater, one is lesser. Only that one which is the greatest possible being is the one who is the only true God, that we refer to as Allah. So can we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a son? No. For us, this is shirk. This is associating a partner with Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what the Arabic word shirk means. Associating partners. So we stay away from that. We hold to the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal alone. So Luqman is advising his son. إِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ. When Luqman advised his son, saying, وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ, and he's advising him, يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ. My son, do not associate partners with Allah. He calls him Ya Bunay, which means my little son. It's a term of endearment. In Arabic, you have terms of endearment. So he's calling him in a loving way. Ya Bunay, my little son. La tushrik billah. Do not commit shirk with Allah. Do not associate partners with Allah. Inna shirka la zulmun azim. Certainly shirk is a great wrong. It is a great wrong. Why is it a great wrong? In the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of our thankfulness belongs to Allah Azza wa Jal. All of our gratitude belongs to Allah. So we're back to the money that we found on our doorstep. What if the benefactor did actually sign his name? He says, here's a gift for you. Your benefactor signed, my name is there. Now, are you going to call and thank somebody else? Imagine, you got this money, you know the name of the person who left you the money, now you're going to pick up the phone and call somebody else, hey, thank you for the money you left me. And meanwhile, the other person is thinking, this guy must be nuts, I didn't leave him any money. The one you should thank, you didn't thank. The one who didn't give you anything, that's the one you're going to thank? So when we think about the creation, we realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our only creator. So when we want to give thanks, we need to give thanks to Allah Azza wa Jal. If we give thanks to somebody else, imagining that he has a son, he has a wife, he has a daughter, imagining that he has all of these things, and we give the thanks to one of these imaginary entities, then something is wrong with our minds. That is the hikmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Luqman alayhi salam and didn't give to us. So we have to reclaim that hikmah and recognize that the shirk, associating someone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is a great wrong. So now young people are here. Maybe at school you fall into some error. I implore you to avoid all of these errors. But I want to impress upon you that the greatest error you can fall into is the error of shirk. Stay away from that. When you go into that, you are claiming another passport. So on the day of judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ, O you culprits, be aside this day. What we're looking at there are the two signs. Those who have a passport with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this way. Those who do not have the passport with Allah, you chose some other passport, go the other way. Then don't blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He sent you the other way. If you gave your thanks to somebody else, if you did your deeds in order to please somebody else, if you made your qurbani to some sheikh or some saint, if you did your worship at the grave of one of the awliya, go claim your reward from them. Of course, they will demur and they will say, we are nothing but servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah tells us in Surah An-Nisa, لَن يَسْتَنْكِفَ الْمَسِيحُ أَن يَكُونَ عَبْدًا لِلَّهِ وَلَا الْمَلَائِكَةُ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. Whether Isa alayhi salam or the close angels to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they do not demur from being the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, it is mentioned that Isa alayhi salam worshipped Allah, and he told his disciples, Inna Allah Rabbi wa Rabbukum fa'abuduh, hadha siratum mustaqim. Certainly my Lord and your Lord is Allah, so worship Him. That is a straight path. So our first commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that we worship none but Him. We do not ascribe any partners with Him. The second thing is that we give thanks to our parents. And we are kind and dutiful towards our parents. This is the second commandment. This is mentioned before Salat. If you look at the list of commandments, here are the commandments one after another. In Surah Al-An'am, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ تَعَالَوْا, come. I will explain to you what Allah has made forbidden for you. The first thing, shirk. The second commandment, that you be dutiful towards your parents. That's how it appears. So I'm a parent, and I have some advantage in saying this, because if my children are here, or if they hear this message, then naturally they will want to be kind to me. But I'm not saying this because it's to my advantage. In fact, it is my responsibility as well to be kind to my parents. And even though now my parents have passed away, it is still my duty to make dua for them. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the 17th chapter of the Quran, وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا, and say, my Lord, have mercy on them, on my parents, as they used to have mercy on me when I was little. I have still the responsibility of befriending the people who were dear to my parents. I still have the responsibility to do good works and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless my parents as a result of these good works, to convey the rewards of these good works to my parents. A man came and asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is reported, my mother passed away, and I think that if she could have spoken, she would have directed me to give charity out of her money. If I give charity on her behalf, will she get the reward? And the Prophet ﷺ said, Naam, yes. So that is evidence that we can do good deeds and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our parents as a result of these, to give the good rewards from these deeds to our parents. So our responsibility does not end. Even the older folks here who will repeat what I've said, many of them still have their parents, and you have an obligation to look after your parents. For many of us, our parents have reached old age. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about that in Surah Bani Israel. إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرِ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. If one of them or both of them should reach old age in your presence, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Do not say to them a word of reproach. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. But speak to them a kind word. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. And lower before them the wings of submission in mercy. Think about wings. A hen gathers her chicks in her wings. See, you ever saw a hen? Yeah? I saw them many times when I was growing up because we had chickens. We had many chickens. We had some loose ones in the yard, and we also had like a pen full of chickens because my mom was very industrious. She would buy these chickens when they were very tiny. They were just hatched. She'd bring them and nurture them till they grow, and then she would sell them. So we had chicken for ourselves to eat, and we also had some income from that. So a chicken gathers her chicks, a hen gathers her chicks within her wings, keeps them warm. The mother may be bearing all of the rain and everything like that, but she's keeping her chicks warm. So Allah is using that analogy and telling us, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. Lower before your parents the wing of submission in mercy. This is more than gathering your wings around them or gathering them within your wings. This is like placing your wings under them. Of course, everything is within reason. And we should guard against extremes in our religion. One extreme is noted that and this is mentioned, and some scholars might even support that to this day, that if a father tells his son to divorce his wife, then the son has to divorce the wife. You can imagine the heartache and the injustice that can result in. We have to be balanced, and we have to say, hey, wait a minute here, think about this. So find out why your father is telling you this. Is there a good reason? Is there a bad reason? But in the end, you have to make your decision. Don't go to your wife and say, sorry, honey, I have to divorce you. Why? Because my father said so. No, you're a thinking man, and you are responsible before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about what you're doing. Do not hurt another person. That is a general principle in Islam. La darra wa la dirar. There is no harming of somebody else, and there is no harming of yourself. The basic principle in Islam. Do not harm somebody else. Think. And don't just simply say, I am following a tradition. You have to analyze that tradition. Look at the context. Did the Prophet ﷺ actually say this to begin with? And if he actually said this, what were the circumstances under which he said that? What was the situation on the ground? You have to know that. Otherwise you might misapply. Another such extreme is where it is reported that whatever you have and you yourself belong to your father. Now if you take that in a literal way, that means that you belong to your father. You personally belong to your father. We can say that a slave belongs to his master. But we are all born free. We do not belong to anyone, whether to our father or to somebody else. The only one we belong to is Allah Azza wa Jal. So here too you have to ask yourself, Did the Prophet ﷺ actually say this? Or if he said this, did he mean something and the meaning has been lost to us? Was there a circumstance? Was there, let's say for example, there is a son who is depriving his father of everything. He keeps his own money, he says, what I have is mine. My father, no share of my money. Now that's one extreme. Sometimes to counter the one extreme, you say the thing in the other extreme, but you don't mean the other extreme. You mean to pull this person from the one extreme towards the other direction, and hopefully he will end up in the middle. So if somebody was saying, my money is all mine, my parents have no share in my money is mine. My father needs something, my mother needs something. Who cares about them? My money is mine. So if somebody had that attitude, yes, he needs to be told, you and what you have belong to your father and belong to your mother. Because you wouldn't have been in the world. You wouldn't have had anything had it not been for your mother and father. But it doesn't mean literally that you belong to your father, because that would make you a slave to your father. And then, if you're a slave to your father, and we know from the Quran and from the Hadith that the mother even has more right over us than our father does, then if we belong to the father, what part of us will remain for the mother? You see the logical inconsistency in things that people repeat without thinking. And they keep themselves in a state of mental lethargy, and they keep the population also in that same state in which, of course, the population thinks, but they don't dare to speak. So we have to correct these lack of balance in our religion, these instances of lack of balance. We have to say to people, wait a minute, brother Sheikh, you said something very useful there, but there's also something that you said that is puzzling to me. It looks like it is contradictory to some basic principles. Explain that to me. Ask them to think, because sometimes the problem is not that they haven't been trained to think. The problem is that they have been trained not to think. And it is the common people who are in the sciences and the various fields in which you must think, otherwise you fail. It is you folks who have to take this religion and correct it. It is you who have to insert these moments of thought into our tradition. But enough about that. I need to get back on track here and finish this khutbah with where I began. So I began with giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we went to the next item, which is looking after and caring for our parents. Now I want to come back to where I began and pull it all together. In the statement of Sulaiman alayhi salam, in the 27th chapter of the Quran, Surah An-Naml, Sulaiman prays, and he makes dua. He says, Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka allati an'amta alayka wa ala walidayk. My Lord, rouse me so that I can give thanks to you for the benefits you have given me and that you have given to my parents. So Sulaiman alayhi salam, giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognizes that he does not stand on an island on his own. He did not come into the world on his own, but his parents brought him into the world. And if he has some goodness, a lot of that has to do with the fact of the situation in which he was and the parents from whom he was born. And so he's giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for both. I want you children here today to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us all give thanks to Him. And I want us all to recognize the value of our parents and give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the parents that we have. Maybe we wish we had different parents, but these are the ones we have. And every blessing we have in life is connected somehow with our background. We were not just simply dropped from a tree, but we were born of parents, and we need to recognize that. This Thanksgiving weekend, let us give thanks to Allah Azza wa Jal. Let us use it as a time to meet with family. You have a day off from work, use that opportunity to meet with family and to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the family. We give thanks to Allah every day of our lives. When we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, we are giving thanks to Allah for everything He has given us. Continue to give thanks to Allah every day of your lives, but on this weekend as well, use the opportunity to meet with family and to give thanks to Allah for the beautiful families and for all of the blessings that He has given us. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ به تعالى من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وصلى الله تعالى على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين والملائكة المقربين والخلفاء الراشدين أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Before I leave this minbar, one of the things we have to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for is safety and security. On the hierarchy of needs, safety and security is right there at the very basic level. We need even safety and security before we need food. And when we see that people are suffering in other parts of the world in various ways, we have to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this specific way of giving charity so that at least we can help those who are suffering in other parts of the world. We are reeling over the last several days from news of the tsunami that struck the Indonesian islands. And the number of people, some 800 who have perished as a result. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take them as shuhada and to give them everlasting happiness in the life hereafter and make it easy for those who have lost their loved ones. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove their grief, wipe away their tears and heal the hole in their hearts. And as for those who are still suffering on the ground, may I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to relieve their sufferings. Everything that is collected here today will go towards those who are suffering. The three different charities, Muslim charities who operate within Canada, and they have people who, and they have the channels to take the money there, have sent us emails asking us to make a collection on their behalf. So we will make the collection here today and give that money to the charities who will make sure that the money goes to the deserving victims. So be generous today in helping your brothers and sisters who in humanity who are suffering in another part of the world. So happens that your Muslim brothers and sisters as well. So the first requirement of help actually falls on our shoulders. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to help them. Allahumma ighfir lana wa li ikhwanina alladhina sabaquna bil iman wa la taj'al fi qulubina ghillan lil ladhina amanu rabbana innaka ra'ufur rahim. Allahumma ighfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat wal muslimina wal muslimat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat innaka sami'un qaribun mujibud da'wat rabbana la tada' lana dhanban illa ghafarta wa la hamman illa farajta wa la daynan illa qadayta wa la maridan illa shafaita wa la mayyitan illa rahimta wa la hajatan min hawaij الدنيا والآخرة إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.